Again, my name is Dr. Carl Atkinson. I'm the Assistant Superintendent. I'm also in charge of federal programs. That's one of the things that I have as one of the hats that I wear in the district. But really, the people that do the work are the ladies that you're going to be hearing from in a little bit. My Title I team over here, our reading specialists throughout the district in the early elementary grades. And they're going to have, each of them is going to have a part of this particular presentation today. Our spring focus is always on something we affectionately call summer slide. So what is summer slide? Summer slide is that strange phenomena that happens to children, it happens to anybody really, when you get separated away from the regular routine of anything, you lose some of the experiences. And that's just what we see happening with children on a regular basis. When students come in, if they're not regularly exposed to reading, writing, doing any math assignments, or doing any math work during the summer, they lose some of that edge that they have. So one of the things we try to encourage families to do as part of this little workshop, as well as to elicit your feedback on our Title I programs, which I have you do as part of the survey, is to also learn a few things that you can do to help your children over the summer and help us prevent some of that summer slide that we all go through. So that's what it is, some tips that you can use, and I'm sorry I forgot the clicker. I always forget the clicker, that's the thing I always forget. Some tips that you can do with your students over the summer. Probably the most important thing that you can do over the summer is read to your children. The more you can read, the more literacy rich your environment and your home is, the better. So the more reading that goes on of almost really any kind of text is helpful for students to hear that. Helping students choose appropriate text. I know one of our teachers is going to talk today about access to the local library. The local libraries are wonderful at this and helping families pick appropriate text. So if that's something I know I struggled with that as a parent with my kids going through, is what's the appropriate book for my son, for my daughter to have. I found the library, our local library, to be wonderful with that. So I'm sure that that will be helpful for you as well. Any opportunities you can get your children to do any kind of writing. Thank you notes, notes to grandma, grandpa, even something as simple as, you're wonderful. You found a clicker for me. So anything as simple as, we used to have our kids write, help my wife do the grocery list. Any kind of writing that you can have your children doing is really helpful. And just any kind of practice, thank you. Any practices on high frequency words. I believe the lists go home for next year's list, or we have the list here. So any help we can give, any kind of head start you can give your kiddos for their high frequency word list for next year, they can come in the next year and be ahead of the game. And so we have those lists for you today. So most of today is to talk about summer slide and things you can do. They're going to go into much more detail than I did about things you can specifically do with your children. But there's also going to be an opportunity for you to meet the teachers that your children will have next year as part of the Title I program. So they will introduce themselves as they come up, and I'm going to hand the clicker off to this one. Who's next? The right hand back.
Okay.
Left goes backwards.
Okay, great. Good morning. I'm Megan McAuliffe. I'm one of the reading specialists here at Enfield. So this year I've been working with kindergarten and first grade students, which has just been a complete joy. So, like Dr. Atkinson said, the best, number one, if you can only fit in one thing to do to help your child this summer, would be to keep reading aloud to your child at home. It benefits your child in so many ways, exposing them to books that they can't quite read yet, exposing them to vocabulary that they can't quite read yet, but they can take that in and they can understand what you're reading to them through their listening comprehension. So it's great for you to choose books that they're interested in but they can't quite access themselves yet, and for you to read to your child every day. So even though it's summer and I know our routines change up a little bit, we have more activities and vacations, and the kids are outside playing longer, which is so important. But try to keep it routine to be reading to your child at home every day. whether that means at bedtime or first thing in the morning or sometime in the afternoon, when they come in from playing outside and want a little snack or something, build it into your routine. That way you won't forget to do it. And they'll crave it too. They'll want that routine of sitting down and snuggling with you and listening and just relaxing together. Make sure you talk about the books that you read to your child, because like I said, especially if you're reading something that is too difficult for them to read to themselves, they can still understand it, but they'll understand it even better if you have a discussion with your child about what happened in the book. What did the character do? Why did the character do that? What's the character going to do next? How do you think this character is feeling? What would you do if you were in their shoes? Just all sorts of discussion like that. Even a simple what happened in the beginning, middle, and end is good too. All right, and just always try to make it fun, right? Make sure you're reading books to your child that interest them. You don't want to force reading something to them that they're not into. We want to make it enjoyable because we always want to promote a love of reading. Oh, and one other thing. If you're going camping or you're going to the beach this summer, try to pick books that fit that theme. You know, camp out on your front porch with a blanket on a rainy day or inside your living room and read books about camping. Or prepare for your beach trip, or even if you're not going on a beach trip, you know, set up a blanket, pretend you're on the beach, read books about the beach, and you know, create a little bit of fun around reading to your child. So you can choose books that have been made into films and read those to your child, and then you can watch the movie afterwards, and then you can discuss, you know, what happened, what was different from the book to the movie, and which one did you like better? You know, lots of times they change things that happened in the movie version, so it's maybe an exciting way to get your child like, let's read the book first, and then let's watch the movie and see, you know, what we think about it. And that's another great way, especially for kindergarten, first and second grade, for them to get access to books that are probably too difficult for them to read to themselves yet, but you can read it to them. Reading books in the car or listening to audiobooks in the car. If you're going on a long road trip, I know your child is probably very common to have an iPad in the back seat or a little DVD player, where they're watching a movie on a long car ride. Maybe in between movies or in between games on the iPad, you pop in a little audiobook or download it on the iPad. And whether your child listens to it on their own with headphones in, and just so they're getting exposure to hearing a story, and maybe if you have the hardback version, they can follow along with the book while they're listening to it. Or maybe you want to play it loud enough for everybody in the car to hear the story, you know, for 10 or 15 minutes to listen to a picture book story and then talk about it together. It's a nice way to change up instead of just, you know, watching movie after movie or TV show after TV show on a long car ride, or even just your ride back and forth to the pool. You know, keep books in the car, books your child can read to themselves, or maybe books that a sibling can read to your child. I think that might be it for the traveling, but let me make sure I didn't say I didn't miss anything else. Oh, here's another thing. It's always good for children to listen to the books, even if you don't have a copy that they can be reading along and following along with in the car or at home. Because if they listen to stories, they can start to visualize what's happening in the story. And that's a great way for them to build their own comprehension. Because they're creating a little movie in their mind of what's happening. Sometimes when they have the pictures right in front of them in the book, they're less apt to do that. So it's a good way to just help them create their own visualization. And you could be talking about that too. What did you see in your movie? What, you know, and you can compare how is what you visualized different than what I visualized. And were we on track or were we not? Did one of us make a huge mistake and totally go right off track with the setting or something like that? We've been teaching kids a lot in first grade this year about visualizing when they read. And a lot of them are getting really, really good at it. So I bet you'd be surprised at how detailed their visualizations could be if they don't have a copy of the book in front of them. All right, so I think I covered it all. And next we have Mrs. Huff for independent reading.
Good morning. My name is Joyce Huff, and I am one of the reading specialists at Enfield also. I work with kindergarten and first graders, and again, it's been my pleasure to do that. It's wonderful seeing the growth that these children are making over the year. I want to talk a little bit about independent reading. Reading aloud is really important to you, to your student or to your child, reading to them, but they also have to be able to read independently. So, as parents, it is our obligation and our duty to make sure they eat healthy, they get enough sleep, they brush their teeth, they put sunscreen on. It's also important that they read daily. That is your responsibility too, to make sure that they read at least 20 minutes a day. We want physical growth, we want brain growth, and that's how to ensure that that happens. So, study and research has shown that just reading 6 books or 20 minutes a day over the summer prevents summer slide. But it's not just a summer thing too. It needs to be done during the school year also. Reading 20 minutes before bed, during breakfast, it needs to be part of a routine. And that promotes brain growth. So if they're going to be reading independently, how do you find the right book for them? And you can use the acronym PICK, P-I-C-K. So you want to pick the right book and help them pick the right book. You go to Barnes and Nobles, thousands, millions of books. Where do you start? You go to the library, so many books. Where do you start? So if you teach them PICK, it helps. So the P stands for purpose. Why is your child going to read a book? Are they reading because it's their duty to read? Or they are reading because they want a book because they watched television and they saw Animal Planet. And there's something about African elephants on there. And so they want to go to the library to find a book about African elephants. So they want to learn some information. Maybe you're going to visit grandma and your purpose is you want to get a book so they can read it to grandma. So you establish a purpose for when you go to the library or you go to Barnes & Nobles. Then the I is for interest. All right, what are they interested in? Are they interested in cars? Okay, so you want fictional books about cars, but you also might want a book about racetracks or famous race biographies on race car drivers or something. So you jump on their interest. Then you go to the C for comprehension. When they pick a book that they're going to be reading, they want to be able to understand that book. Now, we give you, at Enfield and in Erdenheim, a reading level. So we say they're reading at this such and such a level. But when you go to Barnes & Nobles or the library, they might not know what a book is leveled at. So you can open up a book to a page and have your child read that page and then say, did you understand what that page said? Did it make sense on that page? Look at the pictures. Are they understanding the pictures? Look at the back of the book. Read the blurb at the back. So do they know what the book is going to be about? So you want a book that they can understand as they're reading, because that's the main objective in reading, is to understand what's happening. And then while they're reading over that, do they know the words? So they have to be able to decode those words so that they get the meaning out of it. So there's a little 5-finger rule that they can use. And there's a bookmark on your tables too. It's the green one that has these on it. So they open it up to a page and you ask them to read it out loud. And hold up a finger when they come to words that they don't know. If they know the whole page or just missed one word, didn't know one word, that book might be a little too easy. So you want it to be a little bit more challenging so you see more growth. So they find 2 or 3 words. Hey, this book is looking pretty good. This might be a good book for us to get. 4, it's getting a little hard. Okay, we can try it if we're really interested in it. And if they miss 5 words on the page, this book is too hard for them. We'll save it for later, or I'll read it aloud to you. So you can use the 5-finger thing. So if if you remember pick and 5 fingers, that can help you find the just right book for your child to read independently. Okay. After they've read the book, whether you're reading a read aloud or they're reading independently, it's good to discuss the book like Megan was saying, but you might want to know some specific questions to ask them. So over on the side, I have a paper called Comprehension Questions To Ask at Home. And so even though there's like 20 questions here, please don't answer 20 on each book, but like pick 3 or 4 out of here that you might find beneficial to discuss the book. It might be, there was a problem, what was the problem in that book? How did the characters solve that problem? Did this book make you think about any other books you read? Or if they're reading a series of books, whether it be Magic Treehouse, Captain Underpants, or any of those books, you can say, does this remind you of another book where there's the same characters in that book? So you're getting a little book discussion, a little book club there building by talking about books. So over on the side, I had the I pick, and I also had the comprehension questions. And feel, on the tables I put some bookmarks, so feel free to take those bookmarks with you and take one of each, and I even have some extras so that when your child is reading, you can stick that in the book and ask them to think about the book. Great, thanks.
Good morning. My name is Jessica Davis. I'm one of the reading specialists over at Erdenheim. I work closely with my good friend Krista Lynch. So even though we both teach all of the grades, 2nd through 5th, she and I are in there together working hand in hand. I'm the lead for 2nd and 3rd, and she's the lead for 4th and 5th. And I'd love to take this opportunity to talk to you a little bit about how you can get your child to write. So you might be thinking, oh my goodness, it's the summer and I've just heard all this information of how important it is for me to read with my child. How in the world am I going to be able to get him or her to write? So I'd love to share with you some little opportunities for them to write over the summer that is really easy. It's not anything like you're thinking, like essays, 5 paragraphs, or anything like that. So the more opportunities that children have to write, the less they are going to view it as a chore, because a lot of times they view writing and it's like pulling teeth to get them to write down anything. So the more opportunities and the more practice they have, the less of a hardship it really is, and so it becomes less of a stressor. So one of the things that I would recommend is generate some writing territories, and you might be thinking, what are those? There's a little handout, it's goldenrod. If you haven't picked it up yet, you can. It's just a simple list, and basically, kids are little experts. They know a lot about a lot of different things. So when you get them to generate the writing territories, they're simply writing down topics that they're little experts on. For example, you might have pets at home. They know how to feed that pet. They know how to take that pet for a walk if it needs walking, or brush its hair. Maybe they want a pet. Maybe they're an expert on what a dog needs and how much they really want a dog, and they're trying to convince you. Sometimes kids like to make little PowerPoint presentations to convince their parents of something. Let them do it. Say, you need to write 10 things about why you need this pet, why it's really necessary for us to have this pet. So they're going to know a lot about lots of things, like breaking a bone. Going to the hospital is a huge impressionable experience, so they can talk about how scared they were, how cool it was to work with the nurse or the doctor, or to get a cast, and then have everybody sign it. Kids also like to cook. They're great helpers in the kitchen. Maybe they can write about an experience, or even write down recipes with you, make their own recipe. That's really fun around the 4th of July when you're having cookouts. They might be able to make their own barbecue sauce. So even writing down little recipes is another way to incorporate writing. Also with sports and activities, what was it like to score that goal? Lots of little things here and there can make a big difference in a child's writing. And then when you have this list created with your child, you can always put it on the refrigerator and then go back to it when it's a rainy day and you have nothing to do and it's, Mom, I'm bored, what can I do? Why don't you write me something about your territory? And then they just go to the refrigerator, they pick a topic, and then they know what to write about. So they're not just staring at a blank piece of paper thinking, I don't know what to write, help me. All right, so when they're writing, a lot of times we think about the quality of writing over quantity. And I'm going to have you reverse that thinking. These are kids, and they're learning how to write. So a lot of times we start to develop as writers, and we're so hooked on getting everything right, the mechanics, the conventions, the spelling, the handwriting. And sometimes that creates little perfectionists, and we don't necessarily want that because they're going to view writing as more of a chore. It's so hard to write a complete sentence. It's so hard to remember my capitals. Don't worry about that right now in the summertime. Let us worry about that at school. It will come and eventually develop. So instead, focus on the quantity of writing, the number of opportunities that they have to write. So there's lots of little ideas that I shared with you about it, but really what we want to emphasize also is this is what we do in journeys. In all the grades, they write a ton in journeys, and then they only bring one of the pieces to that publishing stage where they're worried about revising and having their capital letters and their periods and their complete sentences and the perfect spelling. So really placing that focus on the ideas, the topics that they're experts on, the meaning, the purpose, and the organization, that's really what you want to focus on. And it can start small. It doesn't have to be, like I mentioned before, 5-paragraph essays or anything like that. They can be simple things like writing a to-do list. Or, hey, I gotta go to the grocery store today. I need oranges, apples, and bananas. Can you write me a grocery list? The first thing they're gonna say, I don't know how to spell it. Do your best. Think about the sounds that you hear in those words and write down the letters that make those sounds. You'll be able to figure out, and you know what you need to buy anyway. So they feel really good about that, and then that's another opportunity. They're going to see it as easy to do. Down on the left is a little greeting card. Kids love to make cards or little letters. So if somebody has a birthday over the summer, or they want to send someone a get well card, let them do the snail mail thing. They get really excited about receiving and delivering mail. Even a friendly letter, if they're at that stage and they can kind of move beyond just a simple card and write a letter about an experience. I went to camp this week and this is what I got to do. I went out on a canoe. All these different things and opportunities to write are great. Another simple thing, kids love graphic novels these days, so they could make their own little comic strip. All they have to do is write little boxes and make a beginning, middle, and end type story and have like little speech bubbles and everything. So little fun ways. And then this one's one of my favorites. I mentioned before about the 4th of July barbecues. They could even make a menu and say, for appetizers, we're going to have fruit salad and crackers and cheese. And then for the main course, we have burgers and hot dogs and dessert ice cream sundaes. And they get to illustrate, and it just adds to the party. It's definitely the cute factor is a huge thing, but it's another opportunity that they see that we write every day for everyday type purposes, not just to please our teachers in school. It's like something that we have to do as adults in our careers. So there's also another handout. I'm not going to go through all these 10, but there's this really cool website with the 10 best writing websites for kids. You can click on that, or I've actually put down all the ones that actually work, because sometimes you click on them and you're like 404 or something like that. So those are the ones that are included. They're really cool. They could be little games, little ways to generate a story, lots of fun online opportunities. So now I'm going to pass off the clicker to my good friend Krista, who's going to talk about high frequency sight words with you. This is where
Good morning, I'm Krista Lynch, the other reading specialist at Erdenheim, and I'm here to talk about high frequency words. And so these words make up 50% of the words that we read and write every day. and they need to be memorized and automatic with your students. So, over on the overwhelming table of handouts, there are lists of high-frequency words for each grade level. You can, if your child's entering first grade, take the yellow. If they're entering first grade, the blue, and second grade, the blue, and then the purple if they're entering third grade. And so these, and feel free to take them all if you want to. We have plenty of copies. So these words need to be, your child needs to know how to read these words and write these words in isolation and then also in context. This is just going to help with building automaticity, and it's going to be, the words generally are not decodable and they have abstract meanings. So if you try to explain to a student what the word "the" means, that's really can be very hard. And so that's why we just need to keep practicing these words so that it helps with their comprehension in the end. Really, comprehension is the goal of reading because that helps us learn and acquire new information. So what can you do at home? And this goes off of everything that Joyce and Megan and Jess have been saying, which is all kind of intertwined. And so first thing, you want to read to your child, but also have your child read independently as well. And maybe if you're reading to your child at night and you come across a high frequency word that you've been practicing, say, hey, what's that word? And let them take some ownership of that, read aloud a little bit too, it can be shared. You are going to, index cards are your friends, and so there are a lot of ways that you can, I'm just going to keep going, this is messing me up. So there are a lot of index cards, so you can write the words or have your child write the words that they're practicing. You don't want to give your child, you don't want to overwhelm your child, so take an inventory of what they know, and then also practice 2 or 3 words a day, 2 or 3 words a week. You know your child, so do what's best and don't overwhelm them. And so have them write on the index card. They could do glitter letters, so you just take glue, write the word in glue, put the glitter letters in there. They can practice, be tactile with the word, and so they can go over the word. If the word's all, they can just go A-L-L, so they can kind of feel it as they're going. You can do the same thing with sand. Get a box of sand and they can practice writing the word in the sand box. Or if you're at the beach, shaving cream is a really great resource as well. And so you can also have your child skywrite the word, so lock the elbow, and then they skywrite say the word, so if the word's all, A-L-L. And the reason why you want to lock the L, this is just going to build the memory, and so just to make it more automatic. You could also have them play fly swat, so you have a list of the high frequency words out on the floor, and you say a word, and they swap the word with the fly swatter. You could do parking lot, and so again, you have the words laid out on the floor, and you say park the car on all, and the child moves the car. It can be silly, it can be fun. And then lastly, you could do pathways. So when you're at home on a rainy day, you have a list of the words all throughout the house, and the child walks on the words, says the words, and they go on top of tables, under chairs, and go every which way around the house. So you just want to really, all of these suggestions is to have fun with your child while they're learning and reading, and just help them become the best readers possible. So with that being said, we hope that you all have a wonderful summer, and we want you to keep those pages turning no matter what you do. And so we are open to any questions, if anybody has any questions. And also I should say there's a ton of handouts that we didn't get to talk about so please make sure that you check out the bookshelf, and also if you didn't have the opportunity to sign in, please sign in as well. Okay?
Yeah. The reminders I was going to get. Don't forget to sign in. The signing sheet's over there, and by my count, I'm missing about 5 signatures. So don't forget to sign in. Also, please fill out the survey. It's on your tables. These are on the tables to begin with. I brought some around to some of the tables during the meeting. So don't forget to do a survey for me. That's really helpful for us to get some feedback. Any feedback on any of the policies, the sheets that were on the table when you came in, that would be helpful. If you missed some of the handouts on the way in, be sure to grab them on the way back out. There, of course, are some snacks on the way out. Please don't make me take those cookies home. They're for you. Grab one on your way out as well. I want to thank my team, my Title I team. They are, I always say, they are the best group of teachers in our district. They really are. They work miracles every day with kids. And I'm very, very pleased and proud of all of their work. And we have one of them retiring this year. So Joyce is leaving us this year. So I'd like to give her a round of applause. We're doing this at every opportunity we can get. But we're going to miss you a lot, Joyce. I can't imagine how many children she has helped over her career. And it's an amazing thing. It's a wonderful thing. You're definitely not missed. Thanks for your service. And our other teammates, they're staying with us. You better be staying with us. They are the best. We went through federal programs monitoring about 3 weeks ago. We went through on the programming side with flying colors, and that was no small feat. And that is largely due to the work of these ladies here. So I can't thank them enough for all the work that they do. So we're here for questions and then an opportunity for you to meet and greet your child's Title I teacher next year. So grade levels again, second grade, first grade, kindergarten. And kindergarten. You guys kind of blend. They do it all. Okay. So questions for us and general questions around our topic today of like some summer slide, how we can help your kiddos.
How do you get a child who does not want to read?
I'm gonna let the experts take that one.
I'll just kind of speak off the cuff here, and please feel free to chime in. I think that's a big struggle for probably a lot of parents in here. Making it fun and engaging them as much as possible. So you're like, okay, what about that? So really pulling on their own interests is really what might engage them. So like thinking, like when they talk to you, what do they really get excited about? And then zero in on that. You know what? I saw a book at the library, or why don't we check out to see if we can read more on John Cena, or like whatever they're really into. I mean, sometimes it's hard because as parents, I'm sure you're not totally interested in every single thing your child is interested in. Like they think like, you know, Star Wars is like the cat's meow, but you kind of have to fake it, you know, a little bit. But there's tons of things like Star Wars right now that's like the hot thing, and there's going to be books that are out there. So really getting them and spending a lot of times, because it's hard for them, sitting down, carving out that special time, like Megan was saying, every day as a daily type thing to just snuggle up. They want more attention from you as much as possible, and I know you have extremely busy lives. I can only imagine how much you're pulled in 5 million directions, but for them to see even you as a reader, this is something that grandma does, this is something from grandpa or cousin or aunt, uncle, mom, dad, this is something that they need to kind of realize that it's not something they do just for school. So really trying to hone in on their interests and then branch out, even if the books are a little too hard for them and they need your help. Yeah, it's
keep trying.
Keep trying.
You never know when that thing will connect.
You're waiting for that click and that light bulb to spark, but you're doing a great job. So keep going.
And not force it either. I would like to say, because I mean, our children they're reluctant readers, right? Most of the kids, and so we need to have them take some buy-in. So take them to the library. You choose the book. And just have them take some ownership. Here are all these ideas I got from this morning. Choose one idea that you want to start with, and then kind of build from there. And just, if it's one word a week, it's better than no word, you know? So just really start slow and steady, really, and a little bit at a time. I mean, you know your child best, so.
And I love that idea of like you pick a book and I pick a book. something that's going to be really too hard for them, they're going to pick because they're going to be drawn to that. But it's something that's easy, and then it's a compromise and it's a give and take. And just having reading materials just laying around the house, sometimes they start to like look at them a little bit, or you'll see them like pick it up and put it down. It might be like 10 seconds and then it's a hot potato and they want to drop it, but they start to kind of infiltrate that wall.
So,
Other
sometimes
questions?
having things that aren't books too, like if you have little magazines for kids, so what they're reading maybe has a lot of pictures to go with it, like even if they're just reading the captions under the pictures in a kid's magazine, or if you have brochures for a place that you're going to travel, something they might be excited about that they want to learn more about. Maybe they can't read all the words on their own, but maybe it'll start getting them interested. Just giving them access to different things too besides just books.
Know that you're not alone. I even had a reluctant reader, my daughter. She was in middle school and she wasn't reading. She hated reading. So got her interested in U.S. News. And she read. We don't have the newspapers now, but read U.S. News, which was written at 5th or 6th grade level. She loved it, and then she would find books that were about what she was reading in there. So you can go backdoor. Also, you have permission to embellish stories. Like when I was your age, I didn't like to read either. You have permission to make those stories and say, but I once found this great book, and then that turned me into a reader. And so let's go on a search to find your best book, so you can embellish.
What about a reward system? Like if they have a chart, like I know it works for chores, but like would something like that work as well? So if you read, 5 days or whatever it is this week, you get to, I don't know, whatever, go to the dollar store and pick something out. Is that worth it?
Go for it.
You know your child best, and what works for one sibling might not work for another, so it's
Okay.
kind of tailoring that reward system to what they like.
Okay.
So that's a great idea. There's, I believe, Barnes and Noble, and this probably went home at Enfield too.
We have some over here,
Okay,
actually.
perfect.
The
So
readers log.
yeah, Barnes and Noble is offering like you read, I think it's 8 books, and you bring in their little journal page. You get a free book.
Cute.
Yes.
Free
It's
library.
open now.
Yes.
Find them.
Yeah, I saw that
Yeah,
too.
so there's like little incentives if more books float their boat, but it could be like, hey, I really want to go to a Phillies game. Maybe they work towards that all summer.
I know the library program too is like, you get a free piece of pizza. So you walk to the pizza place, you go to this place, you have this game. So I really like the library.
There's lots of programs.
You also have TD Bank if you read the journal. Send folks
TD
to get money in your account.
Oh my gosh.
That's
And kids love money.
Not like money.
They love spending money too.
That was TD Bank?
Do they do that for adults?
had parents started their own book club, and they set it up, and they invited some of their kids' friends over, and they had a book club, and then they would meet every month, just like my adult book club. They would have a book club and talk about a book, and it was a wonderful way. It was a group of girls, and it was like 8 girls, and they had their own little things. So setting up your child's own book club.
Yes.
I have a question about fiction versus nonfiction. It seems like a lot of comprehension questions are all designed around like stories and characters, and my 2nd grader just loves nonfiction.
A lot of boys do like
Yes.
nonfiction.
Yeah.
So do I just sort of, tailor the, seems like there's a
Absolutely.
lot of questions just sort of about the character and story.
Yeah, you're not going to have like problem solution in the nonfiction text, but you can have like, what are 3 facts that you learned from this book that you didn't know before? Before he reads, you can ask like, what are some questions you have on this topic? Things you are wondering if you'll find out the answers to, and then you can kind of check back afterwards. You can make a list of those questions and then afterwards check back. Did you find the answers to these? No. Well, I still want to know, so maybe let's find another book on the topic, or let's do some research on the internet and find the answer. But then they can check back what questions did they get answered.
And nationally standardized testing now is more 50-50, nonfiction and fiction. So it's huge because as adults, most of what we read is nonfiction.
And your librarians are going to be a good help there too. So if your son is really into motorcycles, there's probably some good motorcycle books that they could
I love that. Also, you can, if they're into motorcycles or cars or whatever it is, and then you go to follow it up with a museum trip, that could be really cool and something to spark even more interest. So, nonfiction, there's just a plethora. It is, a lot of times we're thinking problem, solution, characters, feelings, things like that. But if they love nonfiction, give it to them because it's awesome. The amount of vocabulary that is in nonfiction as well. You can create your own little word wall in their bedroom door, or finger paint words that they never knew before, and now that they're experts on. So it's a lot. Just unlocking that. That's an awesome question.
We encourage you too to keep your children's writing. Just a true story happened this weekend. My daughter graduated from college a couple weeks ago. We had a party for her. My wife brings out the box of Maggie's stuff, and in it are writing things from when she was little. And my daughter loved little stuffed pigs, big group, right? And they were cracking up reading this. My daughter came up with probably 50 book titles for Piggy does this, Piggy does that, Piggy does that. And Piggy goes to the moon, and Piggy, yeah. And they were just absolutely cracking up. My daughter, talk about writing. Just list the book titles of these various adventures that Piggy went on. And we still have it. And it became a great conversation piece at the party. So introduce yourselves to the teachers. If you have any individual questions for us, we're around. We're going to be here for a little bit. Don't forget the survey and don't forget to sign in. And happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful summer. Enjoy. All right.
Thank you.